Hi, today I thought I'd talk about some of your rights while traveling on airlines in the US and at US airports. This is through the US Department of Transportation. You can find it on their website. I will leave a link in the description so you can follow that. There's other information, there's just so much on the site. I'm not going to be covering everything, such as delays and bumping. Very useful site. Highly recommend checking it out. I'm just going to cover a few of the important rights that they mention. First, I'm going to start off with tarmac delays. You've probably heard this in the news lately, and there are some interesting things in here I think everyone should know about. So, some of the other rights regarding a tarmac delay include working toilets, comfortable cabin temperatures, and adequate medical attention if needed. You also have the opportunity to leave the airplane. You can get off the plane 3 hours for domestic flights and 4 hours if it's international, if they've been waiting on the ground for that long. Of course, there are some exceptions to these rules, such as if it's a safety or security or air traffic control reason. And you should not exit the aircraft unless told you can do so safely. If an airline offers me the opportunity to get off an airplane during a tarmac delay and I choose to get off, is the airline required to let me back on the airplane? No. Airlines are not required to let passengers back on the airplane, and the flight may take off without them, and passengers may be responsible for finding another flight. Still talking about tarmac delays, we're on food and water now. Are airlines required to provide me with food and water during a tarmac delay? Yes. During a tarmac delay, airlines must provide you with a snack such as a granola bar and drinking water no later than 2 hours after the start of the tarmac delay. Airlines are not required to serve passengers full meals, it's just snacks basically, but nevertheless, they're still required to hand out some type of food after 2 hours. And do I always have the right to food and water during a tarmac delay that lasts 2 hours or longer? The only instance in which an airline is not required to hand out food and water to all passengers during a tarmac delay that lasts 2 hours or longer is when the pilot determines that food and water service cannot be provided due to safety or security reasons. So now we're going to talk about some important information about the Bill of Rights regarding disability access on aircraft and at airports. So first, you have the right to be treated with dignity and respect, the right to receive information about services and aircraft capabilities and limitations, the right to receive information in an accessible format, the right to accessible airport facilities, the right to assistance at airports, the right to assistance on the aircraft, the right to travel with an assistive device or surface animal. So this includes medical devices, medication that assist the passenger with their disability. Assistive devices must not count against the passenger's carry-on limit, so this could be very useful to some people. So by that it means you can carry an assistive device like a cane, wheelchair, oxygen tank, or prosthetic, braces with you on board, and your normal carry-ons, and the assisted device will not count towards your carry-on limit. And the really cool thing that's written into law is that if an airline loses, damages, or destroys your wheelchair or assisted device, they must provide compensation in an amount up to the original purchase price of that device. It's a really good thing they wrote that in there. Next, the right to receive seating accommodations, the right to accessible aircraft features, such as priority storage space for wheelchairs if the aircraft has 100 or more seats, and at least one accessible lavatory if the aircraft has more than one aisle. So you'll find that in wide-body aircraft like the Boeing 777, the Airbus A350, and so on. And lastly, we have the right to resolution of a disability-related issue. So now we're going to talk about lost, delayed, or damaged baggage. Airlines are responsible for repairing or reimbursing a passenger for damaged baggage and or its contents when the damage occurs while the bag is under the airline's control during transportation. Airlines are not responsible for pre-existing damage to the bag or if the damage was caused by improper. Please note that airlines often will exclude liability for certain category of items, and they're listed here at the bottom of the picture. So what about damaged wheels, handles, or straps? Although airlines are not required to cover fair wear and tear, airlines cannot exclude liability for damage to wheels, handles, straps, and other components of the checked bag. So that might be a good thing to know. For lost baggage, once an airline determines that your bag is lost, the airline is responsible for compensating you for the bag's contents. Airlines are also required to refund you any fees you paid to the airline to transport the bag that was lost. Here's a list of the assistive devices I talked about earlier in the video. And as I mentioned before, if an airline destroys or loses a assistive device, they must pay for that. Am I entitled to a refund? In some situations, yes, you are. Such as a canceled flight, a consumer is entitled to a refund if the airline cancels a flight, regardless of the reason, and the customer chooses not to travel. Keep in mind, it's if the customer chooses not to travel. If you don't want to fly that airline, they have to refund you. If there is a schedule change or a significant delay, and it's important to note that the Department of Transportation has not specifically defined what constitutes a significant delay. If there's a class of service change, such as when a customer was involuntarily moved to a lower class of service, so if the customer purchased a first class ticket and was moved to an economy class. For baggage fees, a consumer is entitled to a refund if the consumer paid a baggage fee and his or her baggage has been declared lost by the airline. A fully refundable ticket. Consumers who purchase fully refundable tickets are entitled to a refund when they do not use the purchase ticket to complete their travel. In the following situations, consumers are not entitled to refunds except under very limited circumstances. So for non-refundable tickets, you're not entitled to a refund unless the airline makes a promise to provide a refund or the airline cancels a flight or makes a significant schedule change. Personal use, such as being sick or late to the airport, unsatisfactory service. Incidental expenses, a consumer who incurs incidental expenses such as a rental car or hotel room. An important thing to note is airlines must also comply with the promises that they make. How quickly are airlines, travel agents, and online agencies required to process a refund? Airlines and ticket agents are required to make refunds promptly. Prompt is defined as 7 business days with a passenger paid by a credit card and 20 days if paid by cash or check. Airlines are prohibited from automatically including optional service fees in the ticket. And again, do I have to pay a baggage fee for my assistive device? No, they cannot charge you for that. Can an airline increase the price of my ticket after I complete the booking process? After a ticket is fully purchased with either money or points, the transaction is complete. The airline is prohibited from increasing the price of the ticket or requiring the passenger to pay additional money. So sometimes, due to computer errors, airlines may offer a fare by mistake. Sometimes you'll hear about this in the news. For example, an airline may accidentally list a first class ticket from New York to Dubai for $1, which is much lower than the typical price. When this happens, airlines may cancel reservations booked, but airlines are required to reimburse consumers for the full ticket price, all optional services purchased, any reasonable actual and verifiable out-of-pocket expenses that were made in reliance upon the ticket purchase too. So that's my video on your rights while flying within the US. I highly recommend checking out the website. I'll leave the link in the description below.